What if the man who held Princess Diana's deepest secrets finally revealed the truth? Paul Burrell, her trusted confidant, broke down in tears as he confessed the weight of the secrets he had carried for decades. "I owe it to her," he said, his voice shaking. The world's fascination with Diana has never faded. But now Burrell's revelations threaten to rewrite everything we thought we knew about her life, her fears, and the rumors that refused to die. What was so devastating it left him in tears? What did Diana entrust to him that the world must know? And how does it change her story forever? Stay tuned. This is Diana's story as you've never heard it before. At 66 years old, Paul Burrell, the man who served as Princess Diana's trusted confidant, broke down in front of the cameras, tears streaming down his face. For decades, he had guarded the secrets of the people's princess, wearing his loyalty like a badge of honor. But now, after years of silence, something inside him has shifted. He confessed, "I've carried this burden for too long. The world deserves to know the truth." Paul Burrell's story begins long before that emotional moment. A young man from a humble coal mining town in Derbyshire, he had grown up dreaming of serving the royal family. By sheer determination and a touch of serendipity, his dreams came true when he was appointed as Queen Elizabeth II's footman. But it wasn't until 1987, when he joined Princess Diana's household, that his life changed forever. He became more than just a butler. He became Diana's rock, the one person she trusted with her most private fears and dreams. Their bond deepened during Diana's separation from Prince Charles. Isolated within the royal family and hounded by the press, she found solace in Burrell's unwavering support. He wasn't just a servant, he was a confidant, a friend, and sometimes even her shield against the relentless scrutiny of the outside world. Diana once described him as the only man I can trust, a statement that carried profound weight given the betrayals she had endured. Burrell witnessed it all, the heartbreak, the hope, and the moments of pure joy that often felt fleeting. He was there when Diana confided her deepest fears, like the time she revealed her growing paranoia about being watched. "Paul," she whispered one evening, her voice trembling, "I feel like I'm being spied on. There's something not right." At first, he thought it was the stress of her high-profile life, but as time passed, even he began to notice the oddities. Phone calls that clicked, shadows that seemed to linger a moment too long. But this was only one side of Diana's story. Publicly, she was the glamorous people's princess, adored for her charity work and her ability to connect with ordinary people. Privately, she was a woman battling demons, grappling with the fallout of her marriage and the pressures of raising two young princes in the unforgiving glare of the media. Burrell saw how these dual identities tore at her. She wanted to be strong for her boys, yet she also craved a love that would make her feel truly safe and cherished. It was during this tumultuous period that the rumors began to swirl. Rumors that, even at the time, felt too outrageous to believe. Whispers about Diana's relationships, her alliances, and her defiance of royal tradition began to spread like wildfire. Burrell, ever the loyal protector, kept his silence, refusing to dignify the speculation with a response. But behind closed doors, Diana was far from indifferent to these whispers. Some of them stung, cutting deeper than she let on. Others she dismissed with a flicker of her characteristic humor. "Let them think what they want," she once said to Burrell with a mischievous grin. "They'll never truly know me." Yet some rumors carried a darker undertone, rumors that spoke of danger, manipulation, and betrayal. Diana confided in Burrell about her growing unease with certain members of the establishment, hinting at forces beyond her control. She wasn't paranoid, she was perceptive, picking up on subtle signals that most would overlook. "There's a game being played," she told him one evening, her voice steady but her eyes clouded with worry, "and I'm the pawn." As Burrell recounted these moments years later, his voice shook with emotion. He had always known Diana as a woman of remarkable strength, but he had also seen her at her most vulnerable. He remembered the nights she spent poring over letters, jotting down thoughts she could never share with anyone else. Her handwriting revealed her state of mind, sometimes bold and confident, other times shaky and uncertain. One letter in particular stayed with him. A note written late one night in which she expressed her fear of an accident. "They'll make it look like a car crash," she had written. Burrell kept that letter hidden for years, unsure of whether revealing it would bring closure or cause more pain. In those early years, Burrell often felt torn between his duty to Diana and the reality of working within the royal household. The pressure to maintain discretion was immense. The media's relentless pursuit of scandal only added to the strain. Burrell became adept at deflecting questions, offering polite but vague responses to the endless barrage of inquiries about Diana's personal life. Inside, though, he wrestled with a profound sense of responsibility. He knew things about Diana that could shake the world, truths that would either vindicate her or deepen the mystery surrounding her life. As he continued his recollection, Burrell paused, visibly grappling with the weight of his memories. He admitted that his loyalty to Diana had often been questioned, particularly after her tragic death. Critics accused him of profiting from her story, of breaking the trust she had placed in him. But in his mind, his actions were always driven by love and a desire to protect her legacy. "She was more than a princess," he said through tears. "She was a mother, a friend, and the most courageous person I've ever known." Now, decades later, Burrell was finally ready to confront the rumors that had followed him for so long. The years had softened some of his grief, but had not dulled the sting of the unanswered questions that haunted him. He was determined to tell Diana's story, not the version shaped by tabloids and speculation, but the truth as he had lived it. And as he wiped his tears and prepared to speak, the world held its breath, waiting to hear the revelations that could forever change how we see the people's princess. As Paul Burrell continued to recount his time with Diana, his voice softened, reflecting the immense admiration he had for her. He spoke of her strength, but also of her pain, an internal struggle that only a few were privileged to witness. Diana's world was a constant storm of appearances and expectations. To the public, she was the radiant people's princess, but behind closed doors, she was navigating a minefield of emotions and relentless challenges. One of the most poignant stories Burrell shared revolved around Diana's need for genuine connection. Her relationship with Hasnat Khan, the British-Pakistani heart surgeon she referred to as Mr. Wonderful, was a turning point in her life. Burrell described their secret meetings, often orchestrated with the utmost discretion to avoid prying eyes. Diana had confided in him about her hopes for a future with Khan, a life away from the relentless spotlight. She even contemplated moving abroad to be with him, dreaming of a quieter existence far removed from royal duties. But the fairy tale she longed for was not to be. The weight of their differing worlds eventually proved too much for their relationship. Diana was devastated when Khan ended things, but she understood the reasons behind his decision. According to Burrell, it was one of the few times he saw her truly heartbroken. The pain of losing Khan was compounded by the pressure of maintaining her public image, a delicate balance she had perfected over the years, but never without cost. Amid her grief, Diana's need to reclaim a sense of control in her life became more apparent. This was the context in which her relationship with Dodi Fayed emerged. Burrell was candid about Diana's feelings for Dodi, noting that while their romance captured global headlines, it was not the deep, transformative love she had experienced with Khan. Instead, Dodi represented freedom, adventure, and a chance to escape her reality, even if only temporarily. Burrell recalled the summer of 1997 when Diana joined the Fayed family on their yacht in the Mediterranean. The images of Diana and Dodi laughing and embracing painted a picture of carefree happiness. But behind the smiles, Diana remained cautious. Burrell revealed that Diana had confided in him during this time, expressing uncertainty about where her relationship with Dodi was headed. While she enjoyed his company, she was also keenly aware of the media frenzy surrounding them. The relentless attention weighed heavily on Diana. She felt as though her every move was being scrutinized, her motives questioned. Burrell described her frustration with the narrative the tabloids had constructed, that she was a woman moving from one romance to another in search of validation. In reality, Diana's actions were driven by a desire to protect her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, and to carve out a life for herself that felt authentic. Diana's complex emotions during this time extended beyond her relationships. Burrell spoke of her increasing unease with the royal establishment, a sentiment that had been growing since her separation from Charles. Diana had often expressed to Burrell her fears of being marginalized, of losing her ability to influence the causes she cared so deeply about. She had devoted herself to issues like landmine eradication and HIV, AIDS awareness, and she worried that her separation from the royal family might diminish her platform. This fear was not unfounded. Diana's high-profile advocacy often placed her at odds with traditional royal expectations. Burrell revealed that Diana felt her initiatives were sometimes seen as a threat, an independent force that the establishment struggled to control. She had once told him, "They don't understand what I'm trying to do. I'm not here to compete with them. I just want to make a difference." It was during these conversations that Diana also began to voice her concerns about her safety. Her now infamous letter to Burrell, in which she predicted a car accident, stemmed from a series of incidents that had left her feeling vulnerable. Burrell described how she would routinely check her car for signs of tampering, a habit that seemed excessive to some, but, in light of her fears, felt entirely justified. Diana had often said, "If anything happens to me, you must tell the world what I know." This sense of foreboding added an eerie weight to the final weeks of Diana's life. Burrell reflected on how, despite her fears, Diana remained determined to live fully and authentically. She had an uncanny ability to compartmentalize, to focus on the present even when the future felt uncertain. Her time with Dodi, while not without its complications, provided a brief respite from the chaos of her everyday life. As Burrell paused, his expression shifted as though the memories themselves were too heavy to carry. He spoke of the last time he saw Diana, just days before her fateful trip to Paris. She had been in high spirits, excited about the future and eager to share her latest plans with him. But there was also a hint of something else, an unspoken awareness that lingered between them. "It was as if she knew," Burrell said quietly. She didn't say it outright, but there was something in her demeanor, a kind of resolve. Diana's final days were marked by an intensity that Burrell struggled to put into words. The public saw her radiant smile and effortless grace, but he saw the woman behind the image, a woman who had endured more than most could fathom, yet still found ways to give of herself. He described her as a light in the darkness, someone who could find joy even in the most challenging circumstances. And then the unimaginable happened. The news of Diana's death shattered the world, leaving an indelible void in the hearts of millions. For Burrell, the loss was deeply personal. He had not only lost an employer, but a friend, someone he had come to regard as family. The grief was compounded by the knowledge that Diana's fears had, in some ways, become a reality. The very forces she had sought to escape had ultimately played a role in her untimely end. Burrell's decision to speak out after so many years was not one he took lightly. He knew that sharing these memories would invite scrutiny, but he also felt a profound responsibility to honor Diana's legacy. "She wanted the truth to come out," he said, "and I owe it to her to make sure it does." As the world grappled with the sudden loss of Princess Diana, the questions surrounding her death became louder and more persistent. For Paul Burrell, the aftermath of her passing was as turbulent as the years leading up to it. He found himself thrust into the spotlight, a reluctant figure caught between his promise to protect Diana's memory and the public's insatiable hunger for answers. Through the years, he remained steadfast, keeping the most intimate details of her life close to his heart. But as time passed, the weight of those unspoken truths began to take its toll. Burrell's latest revelations have brought renewed focus to Diana's relationship with the royal family in the months before her death. He described her growing distance from the establishment, a separation that was as emotional as it was physical. Diana had long felt out of place within the rigid structures of the monarchy, but after her divorce from Prince Charles, that distance became almost insurmountable. While she remained devoted to her sons, the environment that had once been her home now felt like an elaborate prison. This sense of alienation only deepened as Diana sought to define herself outside the bounds of royal protocol. Her humanitarian work, particularly her campaign against landmines, became the cornerstone of her identity. Burrell recalled how passionate Diana was about these causes, often spending hours preparing for trips and meeting with experts to ensure she was well informed. But her commitment to making a difference didn't come without its challenges. Some viewed her efforts as a departure from the traditional reserved role expected of a royal, leading to tension with the institution she had once been a part of. Burrell spoke of Diana's desire to use her platform for good, even if it meant upsetting those around her. "She wasn't afraid to step out of line," he said. She knew what she wanted to achieve, and she wasn't going to let anyone stand in her way. This defiance, however, came at a cost. Diana confided in Burrell about the strain she felt from constantly navigating between her personal goals and the expectations placed upon her. She once told him, "I'm trying to create something real, something that matters, but it feels like the more I do, the more they push back." It was this determination that brought Diana into contact with figures like Muhammad al-Fayed and his son Dodi. Burrell acknowledged that while Diana appreciated the luxury and excitement that came with being part of the Fayed circle, she remained cautious. She wasn't blinded by it, he explained. Diana was always aware of the motives behind people's actions. She knew when someone was being genuine and when they weren't. This awareness extended to her relationship with Dodi, which, while widely publicized, was far more complicated than it appeared on the surface. Burrell described how Diana viewed her time with Dodi as an escape, a chance to step away from the pressures of her everyday life. Yet even in these moments of reprieve, she was never truly at ease. The media's relentless pursuit of the couple made privacy nearly impossible. Burrell recounted one particular phone call from Diana during her time on the Fayed yacht. Her voice, though calm, carried an edge of frustration. "They're everywhere," she said. "I can't even breathe without someone snapping a photo." Despite the challenges, Diana tried to make the best of her situation, focusing on the joy of spending time with her sons and the hope of finding a semblance of peace. As their relationship progressed, Dodi's role in Diana's life became a subject of speculation. Some saw him as a genuine romantic partner, while others believed he was a distraction, a way for Diana to cope with the heartbreak of her previous relationship with Hasnat Khan. Burrell, who had witnessed the depth of Diana's feelings for Khan, was careful not to draw comparisons. Dodi brought a different kind of energy into her life, he said. It wasn't about replacing what she'd lost, it was about experiencing something new. In the weeks leading up to Diana's tragic accident, Burrell noticed a shift in her demeanor. She seemed more contemplative, as though she were preparing for something she couldn't quite articulate. Burrell described their last conversation, which took place just days before she left for Paris. She talked about the future, he recalled. She had plans, dreams, things she wanted to do, but there was also this underlying sense of urgency, like she knew she had to make the most of every moment. This sense of urgency was evident in the final hours of Diana's life. Burrell shared his thoughts on the fateful night in Paris, reflecting on the decisions that led to the crash. While much has been said about the role of the paparazzi and the driver, Henri Paul, Burrell emphasized the chaos that surrounded Diana at every turn. She was constantly being chased, he said. Every step she took, there was someone there, watching, waiting. For Burrell, the events of that night remain a painful reminder of the challenges Diana faced throughout her life. She deserved so much more, he said, his voice breaking. She gave everything she had, and in the end it still wasn't enough to protect her. As he wiped away tears, Burrell spoke of the legacy Diana left behind, a legacy of compassion, strength, and an unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. Even now, decades later, the questions surrounding Diana's death continue to spark debate. Burrell's willingness to speak out has added new layers to an already complex narrative, shedding light on the struggles and triumphs of a woman who captured the hearts of millions. Through his words, Diana's story lives on, a testament to her enduring impact and the love she inspired in those who knew her best. In the weeks following Diana's tragic death, the public's grief was matched only by the sheer volume of questions that surfaced. Speculation about the events leading up to that fateful night in Paris became the focus of countless headlines and investigations. For Paul Burrell, the aftermath was a whirlwind of emotions, grief, anger, and a profound sense of responsibility. He had promised Diana he would protect her legacy, but as the narrative around her life and death spiraled into controversy, he found himself grappling with how best to honor that promise. One of the most persistent threads in the discussion surrounding Diana's death was the role of the paparazzi. Burrell recalled how deeply the media's relentless pursuit of her affected her day-to-day life. From the moment she stepped out of her car to the rare moments she spent in public, photographers were never far behind. Diana had often described them as a pack of wolves, always circling, always ready to pounce. The night of her death was no different. The paparazzi trailed the car through the streets of Paris, their flashing cameras illuminating the tunnel moments before the crash. But for Diana, the press wasn't just a nuisance, it was a constant reminder of her isolation. Burrell spoke of how she would sometimes retreat to her home, drawing the curtains and shutting out the world. She wanted to feel normal, he said, to go out without being hounded, to live a life that wasn't dictated by a lens. He described how her desire for privacy often conflicted with her sense of duty to the public, a balance she struggled to maintain until the very end. As more details about Diana's final moments emerged, Burrell found himself revisiting conversations they had shared about her fears and suspicions. One memory in particular stood out, a conversation they had less than a year before her death. Diana had been unusually reflective that day, speaking candidly about the challenges she faced. She told Burrell she felt as though she was being watched, as though every move she made was being scrutinized not just by the press but by forces she couldn't see. "If something happens to me," she said, her voice steady but serious, "you must tell people what I feared." Her words took on a haunting significance after the crash. Burrell couldn't ignore the parallels between her premonitions and the events that unfolded in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. While the official investigation ruled the crash an accident, the lingering questions and conspiracy theories refused to fade. Burrell himself struggled with the ambiguity, torn between accepting the official account and wondering if there was more to the story. The tension surrounding Diana's death wasn't limited to the public sphere. Behind closed doors, the royal family was also dealing with the fallout. Burrell shared insights into the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, describing the atmosphere as one of shock and disbelief. Prince William and Prince Harry, just 15 and 12 at the time, were left to process the loss of their mother under the watchful gaze of the world. Burrell spoke of their strength during that period, but he also acknowledged the immense burden placed upon them. "They were so young," he said, "too young to lose their mother and too young to carry the weight of that loss in the public eye." For Diana's sons, the grief was compounded by the complex relationship their mother had with the royal family. Burrell recalled how Diana had often spoken of her desire to protect William and Harry from the more rigid aspects of royal life. She wanted them to experience the world beyond palace walls, to understand life from perspectives other than that of royalty. It was this vision for her sons that had driven so many of her decisions in the years following her separation from Charles. Diana's relationship with the royal family was fraught with tension, and Burrell was one of the few people privy to the depth of her frustrations. She felt constrained by the expectations placed upon her, often describing her role as one of obligation rather than choice. Yet despite her struggles, Diana maintained a deep respect for Queen Elizabeth II. Burrell shared a story of Diana expressing her admiration for the Queen's strength and dedication, even as she acknowledged the differences in their approaches to duty. She once told me, "I may not always agree with her, but I understand her." These reflections offered a glimpse into Diana's complexity, a woman who could challenge tradition while still respecting its foundations. Burrell emphasized that Diana was not opposed to the monarchy itself. Rather, she sought to modernize it, to make it more reflective of the world it served. This vision often placed her at odds with the establishment, but it also endeared her to the public, who saw in her a willingness to embrace change. As Burrell recounted these moments, his voice carried both sorrow and pride. He spoke of Diana's enduring legacy, not just as a princess, but as a symbol of compassion and resilience. Her ability to connect with people on a human level was unparalleled, and her efforts to bring attention to issues like landmines and HIV/AIDS left a lasting impact. Burrell described how, even in her darkest moments, Diana never lost sight of her mission to make a difference. "She gave everything she had," he said, "even when she had nothing left for herself." Reflecting on her life, Burrell admitted that there were times when he wondered if Diana's drive to change the world ultimately contributed to her downfall. She was, as he described, a force of nature, unafraid to challenge norms and speak her truth. But in doing so, she often found herself navigating a landscape filled with resistance and hostility. She knew the risks, he said, but she also knew she couldn't live any other way. As the years have passed, Diana's story has continued to resonate with people around the globe. For Burrell, the decision to share his memories has been both a cathartic release and a way to ensure her voice remains alive. He acknowledged that his revelations have not been without controversy, but he remains steadfast in his belief that the world deserves to know the woman behind the crown. She wasn't just a princess, he said. She was a mother, a friend, and someone who believed in the power of love and kindness. Burrell's reflections offer a window into Diana's life that is both intimate and illuminating. Through his words, the complexity of her character and the depth of her impact come into focus, reminding us all of the indelible mark she left on the world. For him, the journey of sharing her story is far from over, but with each revelation, he feels closer to fulfilling the promise he made to her all those years ago. As Paul Burrell reflected on the years following Diana's death, he admitted that the burden of his silence had often been overwhelming. He carried with him not just memories, but also the weight of her unspoken fears and unrealized dreams. Over time, he began to realize that remaining silent wasn't protecting Diana's legacy. It was allowing the truth about her life and struggles to be overshadowed by speculation and half-truths. And so he decided to speak out, not to sensationalize her story, but to ensure that the world remembered her for who she truly was. One of the most profound aspects of Diana's legacy, Burrell emphasized, was her role as a mother. He described how fiercely she loved William and Harry, often prioritizing their happiness over her own. Diana's vision for her sons was clear. She wanted them to grow up understanding the world beyond the palace walls. Burrell recounted how she would take the young princes to experience ordinary life, visiting fast food restaurants, riding public buses, and even stopping by homeless shelters. These moments, he said, were her way of grounding them, of showing them the value of compassion and humility. Diana's influence on her sons was evident in their later years. Both William and Harry have carried on her legacy of service, championing causes close to their hearts. For Burrell, seeing them grow into the men Diana had hoped they would become is a bittersweet reminder of her enduring impact. She would be so proud of them, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Everything she did was for them, and they've honored her in the most beautiful way. But Diana's story, as Burrell recounted it, was also one of courage and resilience. Despite the challenges she faced, from the collapse of her marriage to the unrelenting media scrutiny, she never wavered in her commitment to making a difference. Burrell spoke of her unwavering dedication to causes that others shied away from, such as her work with AIDS patients during a time when fear and misinformation about the disease were rampant. Diana's willingness to hold the hands of those marginalized sent a powerful message that everyone deserves dignity and love. Her commitment to humanitarian work extended beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. Burrell recalled how Diana's trip to Angola to raise awareness about landmines was one of the most defining moments of her life. Walking through a minefield, wearing a protective vest and helmet, she captured the world's attention and brought a critical issue to the forefront of international discourse. It was acts like these that solidified her reputation as a global icon, a woman who used her platform not for personal gain, but to amplify the voices of the voiceless. Yet even as she sought to make the world a better place, Diana struggled to find peace in her own life. Burrell spoke of the emotional toll her divorce from Charles had taken on her, as well as the isolation she often felt within the royal family. He shared how Diana would sometimes retreat to Kensington Palace, seeking solace in the familiar comforts of home. She would sit in her favorite chair, a cup of tea in hand, and just talk, he said. Those were the moments when she could truly be herself, away from the cameras and expectations. As he revisited these memories, Burrell's tears flowed freely, a testament to the depth of his connection to Diana. He admitted that there were times he questioned whether he had done enough to protect her, but he also recognized that Diana was a force unto herself, someone who charted her own course, even in the face of opposition. She was unstoppable, he said. No one could tell her what to do once she had made up her mind. It was this determination that ultimately defined Diana's life and legacy. She was a woman who refused to be confined by the expectations placed upon her, a princess who chose to walk her own path. Burrell's decision to share her story was his way of honoring that spirit, of ensuring that her memory remained vibrant and true. "I want people to remember her as she was," he said. "Not as the figure the tabloids created, but as the woman who touched the lives of so many." As the interview drew to a close, Burrell reflected on the lessons Diana's life had taught him. He spoke of the importance of kindness, of standing up for what you believe in, and of finding the courage to be yourself, even when the odds are stacked against you. "Diana taught me that it's okay to be vulnerable," he said, "that showing your humanity isn't a weakness, it's a strength." Even now, more than 2 decades after her passing, Diana's influence continues to resonate. Her sons carry her legacy forward. Her humanitarian work remains a source of inspiration, and her story continues to captivate the world. For Burrell, the act of sharing her truth is both a tribute and a release, a way of fulfilling the promise he made to her so many years ago. "She trusted me," he said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that trust wasn't misplaced." In the end, Diana's story is not just one of tragedy, but of triumph. It's the story of a woman who, despite the challenges she faced, chose to live her life with purpose and compassion. And through the memories of those who knew and loved her, that story will continue to be told, a lasting reminder of the power of love, courage, and the human spirit. According to Andrew Morton's biography, Diana, Her True Story, one particularly unsettling instance was Diana's discovery of cufflinks worn by Charles that had been gifted by Camilla. These cufflinks featured intertwined C's, symbolizing Charles and Camilla, and their presence served as a painful reminder for Diana. Every time she saw them, the ghostly image of Camilla reinforced the feeling that her influence over Charles remained strong, even in the face of Diana's imminent marriage to him. In hindsight, Diana later revealed how uncomfortable she had always felt about Camilla's presence. However, at the time, the royal family's social circles were tightly knit, and it was common for old friends to remain in contact. To a young Diana, still navigating the complexities of royal life and long-standing relationships, Camilla's bond with Charles may have initially seemed innocent. Yet as time passed, it became increasingly clear that their connection ran far deeper than she had anticipated. Diana's growing concerns about Camilla deeply troubled her. When she attempted to express her fears to members of the royal family, she was met with little empathy or support. This lack of understanding was not due to indifference, but rather the deeply ingrained way the British royal family managed personal matters, an approach starkly different from what Diana was accustomed to. Shaped by centuries of tradition, the royal family had cultivated a culture of emotional restraint. Their unspoken motto of "keep calm and carry on" meant that personal struggles were to be addressed quietly, behind closed doors, without public discussion. This stiff upper lip approach often led to uncomfortable issues being brushed aside rather than confronted head-on. For the royal family, composure and discretion were paramount, and open displays of emotion were perceived as improper or even a sign of weakness. As Diana grappled with her feelings of insecurity regarding Camilla, she found herself increasingly isolated within the rigid confines of royal expectations, exacerbating her sense of loneliness and vulnerability. In this environment, Diana's emotional openness and need for communication clashed dramatically with the royal family's more reserved way of handling things. Sensitive and expressive by nature, Diana craved validation, warmth, and a space where she could openly share her feelings. She hoped to address the growing issues, especially her suspicions about Charles and Camilla, and sought reassurance from her new family. Yet instead of compassion, her concerns were largely dismissed, leaving her feeling unsupported and misunderstood. However, there had to be at least one person who wanted to help Diana, right? Diana's relationship with Prince Philip. Diana coped with her struggles in various ways, though many were difficult and complex. Often feeling like a stranger in her own family, she yearned for the warmth and emotional support she craved. To escape the weight of her loneliness and the intense pressures surrounding her, she found solace in charitable work. This not only provided her with a renewed sense of purpose, but also helped her forge connections with the public. By reaching out to help others, Diana discovered a way to focus her energy and momentarily distract herself from her inner turmoil. However, privately, Diana battled bulimia, An eating disorder she later revealed was a coping mechanism for the intense emotional turmoil she experienced. The pressure to appear perfect in public, combined with her relationship struggles, took a toll on her mental health. She sought therapy and confided in close friends, but her struggles were often kept out of public view, hidden behind her radiant public persona. Amidst all this, Prince Philip, often seen as the strict and no-nonsense figure of the royal family, shared a closer relationship with Diana than many realized. Although known for his blunt manner and controversial offhand remarks, Prince Philip had a deep sense of duty toward both his family and the monarchy. This sense of responsibility led Prince Philip to take a more active role in addressing the troubles within Diana and Charles's marriage. The Queen and Prince Philip encouraged open communication between Diana and Charles, expressing hope that they could reconcile. Although he had a reputation for being blunt, he tried to offer practical advice, drawing on his own experience of adapting to royal life. His efforts were aimed at helping Diana feel less isolated and providing her with a sense of understanding within the confines of royal expectations. However, despite his involvement, the deep-rooted issues between Diana and Charles ultimately proved too challenging to resolve. For this reason, some believe that Prince Philip began writing her letters, Philip's letters to Diana. In the summer of 1972, as tensions simmered within the royal family, Prince Philip found himself reflecting on the challenges faced by his daughter-in-law Diana. Recognizing the weight of the situation, he decided to reach out to her through a heartfelt letter, one that would reveal the complexities of royal relationships and the struggles that often lay beneath their polished surfaces. As he sat down to write, Prince Philip's intention was clear. He wanted Diana to know that she had his support, especially during a time when her marriage to Charles seemed to be unraveling. He expressed his willingness to help both her and Charles, reassuring her that he would do his utmost to assist them. Yet with a touch of humility, he admitted that he had no real talent as a marriage counselor. This honesty was a breath of fresh air in the world of royal decorum, where the expectations of modesty often stifled emotional expression. In his letters, Prince Philip likely conveyed empathy and understanding, acknowledging the difficulties of navigating royal life while also trying to maintain personal happiness. He recognized that beneath the surface of royal glamour lay a profound struggle for emotional fulfillment, particularly for someone like Diana, who had been thrust into a demanding environment. His letters became a source of comfort and solidarity, a reminder to Diana that she was not alone in her challenges. Through these exchanges, Philip aimed to create a bridge of understanding and support, hoping to alleviate some of the burdens that weighed heavily on Diana's heart as she faced the complexities of her marriage and royal duties. Prince Philip's words were not merely an acknowledgement of Diana's plight, they also reflected the royal family's disapproval of extramarital affairs. He spoke candidly about Charles's relationship with Camilla, expressing concern over the potential fallout from such a scandal. The prince pointed out how foolish it was for Charles to risk everything for a relationship that could jeopardize the monarchy. His statements revealed the protective instincts of a father and a royal, keenly aware of the implications that personal choices could have on the family's reputation. As he penned his letter, Prince Philip aimed to reassure Diana that, in his eyes, no one would ever leave her for Camilla. His words were meant to encourage her confidence, remind her of her worth, and dispel the insecurities that clouded her mind. He signed off the letter with "Fondest love, Pa," a gentle reminder of their familial bond amid the storm brewing around them. However, Prince Philip's letter was not without its complexities. He posed a significant question to Diana. Could she truly say that Charles's relationship with Camilla had nothing to do with her own behavior? This pointed inquiry suggested that he recognized the intricate dance of emotions at play within their marriage. It highlighted a delicate balance of blame and accountability, emphasizing that both parties contributed to the rift that was forming. In the months that followed, Patrick Jeffson, Diana's private secretary, would come to learn just how much that letter meant to her. Diana confided in him, expressing how significant it was to receive the support of her in-laws. For her, it was more than just words on paper. It was a validation of her struggles and a recognition of her feelings. In a world where public scrutiny was relentless and the pressures of a royal life were overwhelming, This acknowledgement brought her a sense of comfort and understanding. Ultimately, Prince Philip's letter served as both a balm for Diana's emotional wounds and a stark reminder of the complexities of royal life. It encapsulated the duality of support and scrutiny that defined her experience, leaving her to navigate her path amid the tangled web of duty, loyalty, and love. Yet the timing of Prince Philip's letter was crucial. It came just months before Charles and Diana would announce their separation, during a period steeped in speculation about the state of their marriage. The royal family was facing a crossroads, and the pressures were mounting. Prince Philip's involvement reflected not just a concern for his family, but also an understanding of the institution itself. He knew that any public breakdown would reverberate far beyond their personal lives, potentially tarnishing the reputation of the monarchy. As he reflected on his role within this uncertain narrative, Prince Philip had to confront the painful reality that, despite his efforts, the situation was spiraling beyond his control. While he had been committed to helping Diana and Charles reconcile, it was becoming increasingly clear that the distance between them was growing. The emotional ties that Charles had to Camilla loomed large, and Diana, feeling isolated, found it harder to navigate her place within the royal family. Ultimately, Prince Philip had to accept that despite his best intentions, the marriage was beyond repair. He continued to sympathize with Diana, recognizing the immense strain on both her and the monarchy. The reality of the situation could no longer be ignored, and as much as he wished to protect the royal image, the cracks in the facade were too significant to overlook. The inevitable divorce. Prince Philip's attempts to mediate and support Diana and Charles's marriage ultimately proved unsuccessful. Despite his genuine intentions and efforts to bridge the gap between the couple, the fundamental issues in their relationship, particularly Charles's ongoing emotional attachment to Camilla, created insurmountable challenges. Philip's frustration grew as he realized that his efforts to maintain peace were becoming increasingly difficult, and the situation was spiraling out of control. Despite his continued sympathy for Diana and his desire to protect the royal image, he eventually had to acknowledge that the marriage was beyond repair. The impending divorce signified not just the end of a troubled union, but also a critical moment for the royal family. As the public became increasingly aware of the turmoil within the monarchy, Prince Philip's hope for reconciliation faded, leaving him to grapple with the implications of a divorce that would forever alter the landscape of royal life. The reality of the situation became impossible to ignore, ultimately leading to Diana and Charles's eventual separation. This turning point was marked by a landmark interview conducted by journalist Martin Bashir for the BBC's current affairs program Panorama, which aired on November 20th, 1995. During the interview, Diana candidly discussed both her own and her husband's extramarital affairs. She notably remarked on Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, stating, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." Her remarks further underscored her doubts about Charles's capability to serve as king. Various authors, including Tina Brown, Sally Beadle-Smith, and Sarah Bradford, supported Diana's acknowledgement of her struggles with depression, bulimia, and self-injury during the interview. The transcript confirmed many of the mental health challenges she faced, leading some biographers to suggest that Diana might have had borderline personality disorder due to the complex combination of issues she endured. The interview served as a pivotal moment in the dynamics of the royal family. Following its broadcast, Buckingham Palace announced on December 20th that the Queen had written to both Charles and Diana, advising them to divorce. This decision, supported by Prime Minister John Major and senior Privy Councillors, followed 2 weeks of intense discussions, reflecting a significant shift in the royal family's approach to personal matters and public perception. The fallout from the interview and the subsequent royal directive marked a profound change in the landscape of the monarchy, emphasizing the challenges of maintaining tradition in a rapidly evolving society. Shortly after the public fallout, Charles formally agreed to the divorce in a written statement. By February 1996, Diana confirmed her agreement after negotiations involving representatives from both Charles and the Queen, which caused irritation at Buckingham Palace, especially when she publicly announced the divorce agreement and its terms. By July 1996, the couple had finalized the terms of their divorce, which included shared custody of their children. Diana received a lump sum settlement of $17 million, approximately $40 million in 2023, along with an annual payment of $400,000. They signed a confidentiality agreement that prohibited them from discussing the details of their divorce or their married life. Just days before, letters patent had been issued to outline the rules governing royal titles post-divorce. As a result, Diana lost the title Her Royal Highness and was styled Diana, Princess of Wales. However, as the mother of the future king, she retained her status within the royal family and was afforded the same precedence she had during her marriage. In summary, the relationship between Prince Philip and Diana was complex and often contentious. While they had their disagreements and Philip did not always see eye to eye with her regarding her public persona, his letters reveal a genuine desire to help maintain family unity and support Diana during tumultuous times. While Charles leaned heavily on Camilla throughout this period, Prince Philip's quiet support for Diana was crucial as she navigated some of the most challenging years of her life. It's evident that Prince Philip's efforts to back Diana extended beyond personal loyalty. They were also about safeguarding the institution to which he had devoted his life. By aligning with Diana, he aimed to preserve the family for the sake of William, Harry, and the monarchy's future. His letters, now made public, reveal a man who, despite his tough demeanor, stood by Diana during her hardest moments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click on the link showing on your screen to check out our next video. See you there. See you there. See you there. See you there.